I'm good. Okay. All right. Should we get started? Okay, well, you're all muted, so you can't even tell me. Just shake your head once in a while, so that's all right. So welcome, everybody, to my backyard. This is my first time trying to do anything like this in my backyard, so I'm sure there will be a lot of errors. But last time we talked about barbecue. And so this time I'm going to make some barbecue burgers. If you had the recipe, this could be something that you probably just, all the stuff you have in your cupboard right now. It's so easy. It's really a no chop recipe also, because there was nothing to do. I used cans, but you know, when I made them previously, I cooked my beans. So you could do it either way. It calls for 2 cans of black beans and 1 can of kidney beans. Now, last time I didn't look at my recipe right, and I flip-flopped it, and I did 2 cans of kidney and 1 can of black. It came out fine. So I think it's a very forgiving recipe, and it's just, there's nothing to it. So I have already drained my beans, so I don't know, I'll show you. Oops, lost a few. The dogs will get those. So I got black beans and kidney beans, and then it calls for oatmeal, just a cup. Who doesn't have that sitting around the house? And then this is the thing to remember, is it needs a cup of cooked rice. So you have to have some cooked rice on hand. Otherwise, it sets back the time of making your recipe. But I made some rice the other day, so this is just my leftovers. So I throw that in there. And then it calls for barbecue sauce. And you know, last time I talked to you all, somebody said that they didn't like barbecue sauce because it was too high in sugar or something. And so that made me challenged, and so I made some barbecue sauce. This is a forks over knives recipe. It isn't a quick come together recipe, the barbecue sauce, but it's real good. It just calls for a chopped onion and a can of tomato sauce, and you know, one thing it called for vegan Worcestershire, but then it had a recipe for that, which was all stuff I had on hand. And then it called for some mustard, and the sweetener in it, it's 2 tablespoons of molasses and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. So, and then it calls for 3 tablespoons of mustard, just regular old mustard. And so I feel it's a little mustardy, but I like that. But if you were going to try to make your own, you might adjust the mustard a little bit. So I'm just going to use half a cup. And again, remember, this is super forgiving, so you can do more. I could probably dump this whole thing in here, which I think I probably will. And then this, you kind of get work. Oh, onion powder too, right? All right, I got a tablespoon of onion powder, which actually was all I had left in my onion powder, so that's why I'm dumping it in without measuring. Uh-oh. It got kind of hot out here in the sun. Well, we'll have to fix that. These are the embarrassing things that happen. Okay, it's all crammed in there. Shoot, I measured it all out so it'd be nice and loose. Oh, well. All right, that's going to be good. Now, it doesn't call for garlic or anything, but I think that would be good, but there's tons in my barbecue sauce. So this is the big part. And you know, I don't think I even read my recipe right. I think you're supposed to mash the beans first. Whatever. I'm going to just do it this way, and you just keep mashing. They say use a fork, but I really have not been super successful with just a fork. I like my old-fashioned potato masher. And then I bet also if you had a ricer, that would be really nice. Now, the trouble with doing it wrong, as I just did, is that now I'm going to be mashing my rice too. But I think that'll be all right. Now, there's enough. I'm going to move a little closer so I can be in the shade. Whew, it's hot out here. So you're going to just make sure everything gets wet, which would have happened had I done it the right way, but whatever. I'm mashing. Now, this
Hey,
recipe...
Put the bowl up a little bit so we can see what it looks like, please.
It's not pretty. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it is not super pretty. Now, as I mentioned, I got all excited being here. I should have mashed those beans first. But you get your workout. Now, you guys are probably too tired from your workout, but I haven't worked out yet today, so I'm going to get this in. In fact, sometimes when I'm doing this kind of mashing, I realize how when you make things at home, it's a workout compared to just going out and having somebody else do all this. Or if you mash potatoes like this instead of using the mixer, this is just a good way to get moving. Now, I have a baking sheet here, so I'm going to do most of mine on that baking sheet. But I'm going to make a couple here on the grill. Now, I use a flat iron on, not flat iron, a flat tray on my grill, because I find most any veggie burger I've ever made always falls apart. I don't know why. This stays together really well in a pan, but on the grill it falls through the cracks. All right. So you can do it either way. When I make it, because it makes 12 or so, I generally will do some on the grill, because I usually do it when we're grilling, and then I do the rest on my pan. And then the good thing is when they're all done, you can just freeze them. I layer them in between wax paper if I have it, or parchment paper. Oops, don't want to litter. And then I freeze them. They freeze really nicely. I keep them in a Ziploc bag once they're frozen. Okay, I'm going to get this pretty mashed, and then I'll show it to you before I make a couple patties. Now, this is a really great recipe because it's so high in fiber. You got your brown rice, you got your beans, you got your oats, all good cholesterol lowering things right there, all wrapped into one. Now, I didn't put any salt in. I think it calls for salt, but I've never found it to really need salt. And people can salt it when they're eating it if they want to. Now, again, it's not the prettiest thing, but this is what it's going to look like. But I guess it's supposed to look like a burger, right? So when you think about meat, it's not all that pretty either. So then we're going to shape them into some patties. Now, you can do whatever size you want, because I don't have a sink out here. We don't have one of those fancy outdoor kitchens. I'm going to put my gloves on when I make them. And I've been preheating my grill. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. And then while this is cooking, I am going to make the Cowboy Caviar. So when you do them in the oven, you cook them at 450. And you do 10 minutes on one side, and then you flip them over in 10 minutes. And I found that they, at least in my oven, they really need the full 10 minutes on each side. And if you go a little bit longer, then sometimes they just get a little crispier, which I actually like. So you just pick it up, and it's just like playing in the sandbox. Now, I know you guys are all muted, so you can't talk to me, but, you know, to me, the best part of a burger is all the stuff you put on it. So you can still make it and do your lettuce and your tomato and avocado if you like that. You can put all kinds of stuff on there. You could also season this up a little differently if you wanted to by adding the garlic, or I was thinking of adding some turmeric or some cumin or anything. I've been reading, the latest book I've been reading is a Dr. Greger book. And it is called How Not to Diet. And I know not everybody's interested in losing weight, but it's really fascinating. And he takes it a little bit farther than he did in his How Not to Die, which most of you know I love that book also. So, but in it, I was just reading the section last night about cumin. And cumin is one of his things you should have like every day or practically every meal, because it can help burn belly fat. Who knew? So he says black cumin, which I've actually never had before. I've got to look for it on Amazon or something, is the kind that's even more potent. So, oh, I should have shown you. I'll make a burger and show you. So, Linda, I know you guys have a chat box. So if there's any questions, would you ask me on the chat box? So there's just our little burger. And I'm just going to make those on a cookie sheet, stick the rest in the oven.
Lift it up so we can see it. Thank you.
I can't see what I'm seeing. So, okay, so there you go. It's just like a little burger. So, and, you know, some of you are probably really good at shaping it. I'm not so great at that. And again, very forgiving. So then I put them over there. I'm not going to make them all now just for the sake of not boring you to death, but it will truly make 12. And then I've got my ones cooking here. I don't know if you can still see my grill. They cook pretty fast. I flip them a few times so they don't get too dried out. And because I never can tell, my grill's on pretty low. And I've got my little, it's a flat sheet, and that's where I like to do that. Now, I think there's lots of fun barbecue tools. And so I like a grill basket. There's so many things. But for burgers, I think this flat one is really nice. Now, if you close the grill, it's going to cook a little bit faster. So I might close it for a minute while I change to my next recipe. Okay, we'll make all those a little bit later. Okay, next one is Cowboy Caviar. Again, another recipe from Sarong, who has been on the program for years and years and years. And she contributed it. We've taken it off and done so many different things with it. And Cowboy Caviar, to me, is one of those things that a lot of people, I'll say Cowboy Caviar, and I go, oh, yeah, I know that. But it's made so many different ways. So, again, it's got a bean base. So I love that. So for that, I used a can of black-eyed peas and a can of corn. You could use frozen corn. You could use fresh corn. Use whatever you like to put on it. But basically, it's a corn and a pea. I've already mixed those up. So you can tell it's already, I don't know if you can tell. See, very beautiful. I don't know if you can see that. And then this one does require a little chopping. So you add, I already chopped some green onions, tops and everything. Threw those in. And then it calls for some tomatoes, and I'm going to try something here that I've not tried before because I just saw it on a cooking show this morning. Since we quit having regular TV, you know, and we now use Hulu, and so I never had this experience, but you can go back and look at your favorite shows and like watch whole series. So there's a show I really like called The Kitchen. It's a cooking show. There's multiple little chefs. They don't always do stuff we can eat, but I pick up some good tips on it. And so today, what I was watching, I'm way back like season 4. When I was watching, they said that when you chop tomatoes, because this calls for 1.5 cups of chopped tomatoes, you could also use cherry tomatoes, but you let them sit and they create their own little like tomato juice, right? So they said you don't want the tomato juice in your salad, whatever salad they were making, but if you strain them, you get lots of yummy juice. And you could throw that in your dressing. So I was actually going to try that today and throw the tomato juice into my dressing. Let's see how our burgers are doing. Blocked my handle already. Okay. You know, I'm going to keep cooking them a little more. I just want to show you what they look like. They do start to get a little brown. I think that's from the barbecue sauce. Get some a little brown, but I still want it to be a little more done around the edges. So I'm going to just let it keep going. I have it on a not very hot part of the grill so it won't burn while we're sitting here playing around. Okay, so now I'm going to take those tomatoes. So I got green onions, my can of corn, my can of black-eyed peas. I got green onions, I got tomatoes. And so then I have this fun little tomato juice. Well, you can't tell. It made, I don't know, about 1/2 cup of that. I'm going to do my dressing with that, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know, just experimenting. So this one calls for some red wine vinegar. Nothing fancy, but I think you could use, if you like balsamic, you could use whatever you want. So I better pull out my recipe so I'm doing it right. Sorry about that, I dropped you guys. We're going to be really sorry you recorded this. Okay, 2 tablespoons. You know, I like a lot of dressing, so I might do a little bit more than that. So 2 tablespoons of my vinegar. Oh my gosh, it's so hot out here. My tablespoon is boiling. I might do a little bit more. I love really tang vinegar. Now it calls also for just a splash of oil. I've done it without the oil too, but one thing with the little splash of oil, I think it's like 1/8 of a teaspoon or something. is that it gives it a little structure to stick to your stuff. So I'm just doing like literally a splash. That's it. Not much else. Now, what else goes in there? Let's see what else we got. Oh, our hot sauce, definitely. So I like Tabasco. We always have Tabasco in the house, but you could use Cholula, you could use Sriracha, whichever one you want. So it's 2 teaspoons. I don't know if I brought my teaspoons out, so I think we're just gonna go with, so 3 teaspoons to a tablespoon. So I'm gonna do like 2/3 of my tablespoon. Okay. Oh, and a clove of garlic. So I already got my garlic clove prepared, and I have a little garlic press. I hardly ever use it. I actually got it out for you all so I could do this in nice, neat pressing. I'm going to press that in. Again, see, look at, we're using our muscles all the time. I love that. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to throw it all in. I had already peeled it. Some garlic presses, you don't even have to peel them. This one, I always peel. Okay, well, and then it needs some cilantro. I better read my directions. Okay. So this, I'm going to whisk up just a little bit. Where's my whisk? Well, it's too big. All right. So basically, I'm just going to whisk it. You could do this in a jar and shake it up. I like to do that too. I like to do that if I'm going to be going somewhere. This is the type of salad that is really good if you just leave the dressing on too. You don't have to wait till you get to your party or whatever to put it on. Put it on right away. Now, we're going to add that to that, but my last little thing here, I've got one little trick, and Jill Burns taught me this trick, and because it calls for cilantro. You can also use any herb you want, but I got some cilantro, and I put it all in my little red cup. No, you probably thought I was drinking a beer, but no, this is cilantro. And then instead of chopping it on my cutting board, I take my little kitchen shears, and I just cut it in here, and I just snip, snip, snip. Got to make sure you get all the way to the bottom. I love doing this because when I cut it on the cutting board, I tend to lose a lot, or it gets mushy on the bottom. You lose, on my cooking show today, they said you lose the oils from it. So they said actually tearing it. But I think for this recipe, it's a little bit better to have them smaller. So I'm just snip, snip, snip. And then I'll dump that in there. Okay. And then when I do that, I notice, oh, a few at the bottom didn't get it, so I just snip them while they're in here. Probably after this, you guys are never going to eat anything I make. You're going to go, gosh, she is clueless. Okay, then it calls for cabbage. Now, at this point, you could not put anything else in, and it would make a great dip for, you know, your baked chips or pita chips or something like that. But I love this broccoli slaw, mainly because it's super, super easy. So the recipe calls for red cabbage or cabbage, and you just slice it up. This, I just get a bag of this stuff. It is so cheap. This was like $1.69. There's 4 cups in here. The recipe calls for 2 cups, so I'm going to use about half this bag. And then this is broccoli, carrots, and red cabbage. I think they get all the stems of the broccoli that people, you know, don't use when they make frozen broccoli and things, and so then they chop it all up into this. This is, to me, is the greatest invention ever. So I'm going to throw in my couple cups. You could do more, you could do less. Oh my gosh, I forgot about my burger. How are these guys doing? I'm not really good at multitasking. These are actually looking pretty good. I'm going to give them a couple more minutes. We should be all done. So I'm going to get something to stir this. Let's see. So I'm just going to mix it all up. And then we'll throw our dressing on. Hopefully I got everything in the dressing. I think adding that tomato is going to be really special, though. I like that. So this is gorgeous. It's like a little confetti salad. It's got all kinds of fun stuff. Can you guys see it? I'm not sure what angle I'm doing.
Higher.
Higher. Thank you. Thanks for the tip. Okay. So you just mix it so it's well mixed. So remember, I got my green onion, I got my chopped tomatoes, can of corn, can of black-eyed peas, my cilantro, and then I can put my dressing on it. And you know, it's funny, those tomatoes made it kind of wet, like you almost don't even need dressing. But I think the dressing is going to be good. Don't put the whole dressing on, just to make sure you don't drown it. I'm not sure. I still saved a little there. So this makes a great salad. It makes a great, I think, we've even done this before at potlucks, a great filling for a little lettuce wrap. You could put it in a burrito, in a tortilla. You could put it on top of your tacos. I don't know. You guys have to tell me some other ideas or what you've done with it. You could also cut up avocado and put that in it. You could, I mean, it's got beans, so to me, it doesn't really need any more protein if you're going to make a real meal out of it, a whole meal. But, I mean, you could put tofu in there if you wanted to. Okay, so there it is. That's it. I'm going to taste it. I thought I might have brought a fork, but I don't appear. There it is. I'm just going to see how it is. Then I can see if I want more dressing. Oh, that's good. I would say, to me, I would love a little more pepper in there. And I know so often when we eat things, we think, oh, that needs a little more salt. Well, there's no salt in here. So, in fact, the beans I got were low sodium, and I rinsed them off, so we lost most of the salt. So, I mean, if you wanted to add a little salt, I suppose you could, but I don't know that you really need to. It's really tasty. That hot sauce kind of covers up for the lack of salt. So, I don't know. I think that's beautiful. This one is a great potluck dish, a great dish to take to a barbecue. And it looks like I'm going to be eating it for the week. Okay, let me check my burgers. Yeah, I think this is pretty much done. So it's pretty much browned all around. And this one's going to look like when I put it in the oven too. And it's moist inside, but kind of crispy on the outside. And I like that. I like the crispiness. So I'm going to turn my grill off. So I think those are good. And that's all I have to show you. Do we have questions? Do we want to talk about other things we could do with these things? I'll come sit in the shade and chat with y'all. Hey, we need to unmute. Talk, carry on.
It looks good.
Thank you. I think it is good. Thanks to Sarong for that recipe. Yeah, and you know, often when I've had that at parties, sometimes people will cut up the avocado and put in it. I think that makes it really nice too.
I also just sent Linda a recipe of one that's made in Canada.
Yeah.
That uses mushrooms.
Oh, see, that's a good idea.
And that was the thing that caught me. It's got lentils and black beans and garbanzos and oatmeal. And then I just saw all of these veggie things. There is tapioca starch, which I think is the glue to hold it together.
Right.
But aside from that, it looked really tasty.
This is a burger or a salad, John? It's a burger.
This is a burger. This is at a restaurant called Planta in Toronto.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so the recipe comes from a guy who's in Florida who said, I have to make this. And so he formalized the recipe and put it out there. So.
Oh, that sounds good.
I sent the link.
I think if tapioca starch isn't one of those things people tend to have around. I happen to have some because it goes in a lot of recipes, but I think you could use like a flax egg or something too if you didn't have that.
Sure. Oh, sure. Or even cornstarch. But.
Right. Yes. In fact, I recently got some cornstarch and I've been using that a little bit.
But why would you need that? It doesn't look like you need that in either recipe.
It's glue.
He's talking about a recipe that is not the ones we made today. You're right. We didn't need any glue because I think that barbecue sauce was fine in the glue. But he's talking about a recipe he heard in Canada.
Was there salt in the barbecue sauce, Debbie?
No.
Okay,
I don't think so.
Okay, could you send the recipe, please? It looked good, and I'm very leery of most of those. The commercial ones have salt in them, even though I looked online.
And even if it called for salt, I bet I didn't put any in. Oh, you know what it has? It has soy sauce. So there is saltiness to it, but not straight from salt. I'll send it out. It's a forks over knives recipe. And it takes a little while. I had to like cook the stuff for 45 minutes. So there's
it's a quick sauce.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll send it.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Is anyone else sweating like I am?
I have some hibiscus tea in the refrigerator that by the time it gets nice and red and I put some mint in it, it'll be the chill of the afternoon because we're supposed to go to 104. So
it is. You're right. I know. I got my tea. I'm going to go get it while we're chatting. And we really lucked out today because the garbage men came, but they came right before we logged on. My neighbor was weed whacking, but he stopped right before we got started. So it's been very nice. Quiet. Okay, what else? Other ideas? Other salads? Other barbecue things?
Red onion?
Red onion?
Well, I don't know. You asked, so I threw that out there.
Yeah. Oh, you mean to grill a red onion?
Yeah. Why not?
I think that is awesome. In fact, I was just seeing, I don't know, I got some email with pictures of grilled vegetables and the red onion looked good. And I thought, I need to do that more.
God must love us that he gave us onions to grill. Yummy.
I think you're right. Now, has anybody done the grilled carrots, the carrot dog?
No.
I haven't either.
I just bought the carrots to do it. I haven't done it yet, but that's for probably tomorrow.
Okay, I just bought the carrots to do it too. I was going to do it today, but I thought, oh, I have too many other opportunities to screw up today. But I think you peel the carrot. They do have you peel it, and you boil it. And then you marinate it for like up to 24 hours. And then you just put it on the grill like a hot dog. And then you put it on your bun and you put your condiments. And actually the salad would be really good on top of there. And then you eat it like a carrot. I mean, like a hot dog. I don't know. Sounded fun.
A lot of fiber.
Yes. A lot of fiber. The boiling and then the marinating, let's just make it soft enough. So otherwise, it's not quite as crunchy.
Well, marinade or pickle, it's the same thing.
True. That's a very good point. And I don't know what they marinated it in. Yeah. So yeah, we could just grill pickles. I've heard of that actually.
Whose recipe are you looking at?
The one I looked at was the email we got from Forks Over Knives just this last week.
Okay. I use the brand new vegan version.
Yes.
He's been getting rave reviews on that. So
okay.
He's a no oil guy,
Uh-huh.
as well as low salt and low sugar and unprocessed.
Ah.
So I figured, well, he generally has a taste that I can meet. So the mushroom bourguignon came from him.
Oh, yes. That's good. Okay. The brand.
I get a question.
Brand new vegan. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And has anybody tried grinding up vegetation and putting it into like a sausage casing with to preserve it that way? Is that possible?
It is possible. I've never done it. I bet John knows more about it than me.
The Field Force has a cookbook for sausages. They're the ones who have the sausages that you find in the grocery store, vegan ones. I have the cookbook.
But I've heard referenced the Engine 2 cookbook.
Yeah.
Like one of their first ones. It's supposed to have a sausage recipe where you make your sausage too.
Yeah.
I've never had that.
A lot of people try them. They use seitan a lot.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
that's something I'm developing an aversion to that. I can't get it. I can't lose the wheat flavor, and I want more of the spices that are part of what you want for a sausage. So that's where getting this planta recipe for the burger has no seitan in it. It has no TVP. It is beans. I can make the beans.
And
no oats or
It has oats.
okay.
you know, I admire those places that are trying not to do processed food, and you don't even realize what an effort that is until you think about it. Like in our recipe today, like they would never use a jar barbecue sauce. So whatever they make, they got to make it all from scratch. Ketchup, mustard, barbecue sauce, all of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of effort and commitment for those places that do that. I really admire them.
Well, it's the hippie thing to do.
Well, it is.
Know where your food comes from.
You're right. That is true. You're right.
Actually, it's a lot older than hippies. It's, I'm sorry, but
I guess hippies are our generation version.
I guess. I didn't realize my parents were hippies.
Yeah. I don't know.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. That was super fun. And I hope you'll try the recipes because they're good. And those burgers will keep in your freezer and be great. And I'll send out the recipe for that barbecue sauce.
Have you
Thank
tried
you
a
very-
half recipe on the burgers? I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't, just
Oh,
because freezer space
totally.
is gone.
Yeah, you could totally do a half. In fact, I've kind of learned for a lot of my recipes, I do need to cut them in half because especially if it's just me and my husband won't eat it, I just have this stuff forever sometimes and not all of it freezes well. So yeah, I think a half would be perfect.
Thanks again. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks you guys. It was so good to see you.
Thank you.
I'll chime in next week for exercise.
Have a delicious lunch.
Thank
Hey, Debbie.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Linda.
You bet.
Yeah, I think